Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation as part of the Industry Insight webinar series. The topic this time is Legal Accounting Tips and Tricks for 2016. Speaking today will be Erica Bursler and Rick Cabra from CosmoLex. Erica Bursler is Manager of Customer Success at CosmoLex, developers of a cloud-based legal billing and trust accounting system specifically designed for solo and small law firms. Erica has a BS in Business Administration and 5 years experience in the legal software industry, catering to the specialized technology needs of small to mid-sized law firms. She's given numerous presentations on legal technologies such as law practice technology management, cloud computing, and legal billing and trust accounting compliance. Dr. Rick Cabra is CEO of CosmoLex Cloud, a web-based law practice management system designed for small law firms. Rick has a PhD in electrical engineering and has over 10 years of experience in the legal software industry catering to specialized technology needs of small law firms. Rick has given over 100 seminars and published numerous articles on legal technologies related to law office management, cloud computing, and legal billing, business, and trust accounting compliance issues. His passion is to help attorneys use technology to simplify their law firm operations. Under his watch, the CosmoLex platform has grown to include practice management, billing, business accounting, and trust accounting functions, and is being used in small law firms in all 50 states. The Industry Insight webinar series is hosted by the ABA Legal Technology Resource Center. To stay updated on upcoming webinars or view previous videos, visit ambar.org/industryinsight. You can also stay updated on legal technology news through our blog, www.lawtechnologytoday.org. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll now begin the webinar.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be talking about legal accounting tips and tricks for 2016. As the year is ending, accounting and bookkeeping is or soon to be would be in everyone's mind. So it's a great time to talk about some ideas which hopefully you can implement going forward. Now, in my long career working with attorneys, you don't make friends by talking about accounting. So we would like to keep things simple, easy to understand, and if there are questions, certainly we'll take it towards the end. Now, before we get into very specific ideas and tips, let's make sure that we are all on the same page. Lawyers are not accountants, and accounting often becomes the most neglected elements at law offices. It's something which is easy to, push off, worry about it tomorrow or next week and next month, except at many law firms that never happens up until the end of the year. Well, it doesn't have to be like that. To a large degree, and today we will only talk about legal specific accounting issues. We are not, this is not accounting one-on-one premier. It's really about legal accounting, the issues and ideas and options. So there are primarily three components to legal accounting, what is known as legal accounting. One part is the business accounting. This is one element which is no different than any other business. It's a back office accounting, it's the facility, the payroll, the paper, the computer, you name it. This is accounting, again, as I said, which is handled by each and every business. Business and law firms, they book revenue and expenses to the profit and loss, and assets, liabilities, and equity to the balance sheet. So profit and loss, balance sheet, these two becomes the primary driver for any small business business accounting. But then there are very unique components, which is where we'll be focusing heavily today. Matter cost and income accounting. To properly post the client cost reimbursements, and the fee income to the general ledger, you will see that the requirements for legal firms, law firms, are quite different than what it would be for a normal business, how they account for their cost and income. Then the last component to this element is fee advances or retainer accounting. So that's to manage client funds being held on account to pay for legal fee, expenses. It could also include escrow funds such as personal injury settlements or disbursement of those funds. Now, what's to take away here is that these three components are not isolated. They interact with each other all the time. And that's not all. These three together, they also interact with your client billing data. So very often law firms treat their accounting or accounting system separate from their billing or billing system. As you will see by end of this presentation, how it becomes the root cause of many issues which we are going to discover today and go through that today. So our goals today is to really identify some of these common challenges, learn into a little bit more detail so that if they do apply to you, perhaps you can look into ways to solve that. And we will also go through some tips to strengthen your accounting components, how technology can help you to run a better law practice and whatnot. So the first point I will talk about is use legal specific chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is the foundation of double entry bookkeeping. Each and every financial transaction will impact two chart of accounts. One would be debited and one would be credited. So for example, if you are paying an expense such as rent, it will decrease the bank account balance and it will increase the rent expense account. That's just the foundation. Every penny has to be tracked like this. Now, as I said, legal accounting requirements are very unique, and for this reason, you would need a system which is uniquely designed for lawyers. Now, here are various chart of accounts which are legal specific. These are not the accounts you are likely to find in the books of a normal business. Now, an average law firm might need more than this, less than this, but this is a general list which kind of meets most of the requirements. But it's more than the list, right? It's really posting the transactions correctly. You can have a list, and if you are posting transactions incorrectly, or your system is allowing it to be posted incorrectly, then at the year end, you are going to have issues even then. So are the trust funds going to right chart of account? Like for example, here you see there are two chart of accounts for client trust funds and client general retainer. Both of those are liability accounts, and both of those could be used for trust funds. But are you posting it there? Are the client costs being posted to the right account? There are several chart of accounts here related to cost. When the invoices do get paid, are they being allocated correctly? And we'll spend some time on that. So the bigger issue is that having a list is the first step, and then making sure that you're enforcing the right chart of account use all the time is equally important. And a legal specific system will help you doing that. A generic accounting system, you will have to make sure that you train your staff and have right set of processes to make that happen. Now, let's talk about the second point we would like to cover, which is IOLTA accounting. Now, let's make sure that, we all understand how important the IOLTA accounting is. It does require proper due diligence. We know the consequences, and most of the issues related to IOLTA accounting are negligent bookkeeping. Rarely you find situations of deliberate misconduct, and negligent bookkeeping requires either knowledge, proper systems, sets of processes to make sure that, so for example, there cannot be any commingling of funds whatsoever. Your client ledger must show running balances for each and every matter. There is no overdraft which is allowed at the matter level. So for all practical purposes, you are treating it has its own bank account. You must be able to produce a three-way reconciliation report: liability account, bank account, and the client ledger. All three must tie up. Again, a legal specific solution will help you getting these compliance out of the box. And a general accounting system, you will have to adapt to make it work for the IELTS accounting. Okay, so with the trust accounting out of the way, Um, let's talk about another common issue which is prevalent at many law firms: client cost recovery. Now, there are many issues related to client cost. First of all, the leakage. It is not uncommon for matter expenses to be paid from accounting software or by credit cards. You know, you paid $40 filing fee by credit card, and then we fail to post it to the matter in the practice management software. Now, since most practice management software includes invoicing client, for time and cost, if you forget to post it, it would become what is called leakage. Um, it's uh, it's basically the lost income. And then likewise, also overlooking the overhead expenses is the same thing. If you forget to post it, it will not get billed, and what is not billed will not be paid. So oftentimes, to minimize the leakage, the best defense is to set up a system in such a way that when you do incur that cost, or when you do import those credit card statements into your system, you can immediately allocate that cost, portion of that cost, back to the matter so that it gets picked up in your next billing cycle. So that's the leakage part which needs to be plugged. But then that's not enough. There are accounting issues, and we don't want to go too much deep into that. I mean, we can talk about this for an hour just on this. Some of you might post the cost to advanced client cost, which is a balance sheet item, while others might post to reimbursable client cost, which is a profit and loss item. And in some cases, you might use both advanced client cost for, let's say, contingency matters, reimbursable client cost for, let's say, hourly matters, contemporaneously billing matters. That's the choice between you and your accountant. But whatever that choice is, make sure that your system can support that, consistently. Otherwise, it will be a, oscillation between your profit and loss and balance sheet, and in the year end, you'll require a lot of cleanup to do. And then comes the indirect cost. Um, in our experience, working with lots of law firm and accounting issues, indirect cost is the largest area of leakage, and handling it in the accounting system can be very confusing. Indirect costs are your overhead, photocopies, phone expenses, travel. These are costs which are already expensed in the firm, and now you are charging portion of that back to your client. How would you account for, billing of these costs which are already expensed? And once those are paid, how would those income be allocated, accounted for? It's a very common mistake which often results into understatement of expenses on your profit and loss statement. So something to keep that in mind. Then we go into the next item, which is allocation of the revenue receipt. As invoices gets paid, whether fully or partially, how do you book that income? An invoice can have various elements: cost, fees, finance charges, and all that. Now, the correct way to book that is, the order which is shown here: the liabilities first, and then cost, and then, anything else goes after that, which is income. Income is the last one. In a general business accounting system, this process will require to split the invoices into several components and then applying the payments properly. So each and every invoice has to be handled, uniquely. Again, a legal specific system can help you meeting that this allocation requirement, because it already knows the components of each and every invoice. So something to see if this is an issue at your firm, then something to see. Here is an example which basically ties up what happens when you incur the cost, which is on the left column, matter cost, when you book that cost, which different chart of accounts it gets posted to, and then once the payment is received, the invoice payment is received, which is allocated to these costs, where does that get booked? So again, the time doesn't permit to go account by account, but you really need this level of sophistication if you want to keep your books simple and clear, without causing all this confusion about understatement or overstatement of the revenue or on the cost side. Okay, so we're going to switch the gear a little bit here, and the fifth element I would like to talk about is tracking income by practice area. Do you know which practice areas are more profitable to you? Which are the rainmaker and which one needs more marketing attention? So the best practice always is segregating the income by practice area. This will allow you to have a quick analysis of profitability by practice area, the growth opportunities, showing the prospective marketing opportunities, as well as making informed management decisions. But to do that, you again would need a system which can divvy up the money which is coming in, uh, probably automatically, because you want to remember when those payments are coming in, is this a family law matter or is this a estate planning matter? That's something would need to be done when you set up the matter itself. But something which many law firms wish to do, but they often struggle with that. Then the another point I would like to mention, the number 6, is eliminate duplicated data entries. Now, since law firm practice management system and business accounting system are often two separate systems, it is essential that the same data appears in both the systems. Um, if imagine if the keying error happens where one system is saying something else and another is saying something else. Finding that can be nightmare. Imports, exports, syncs are often unstable. And even if you sync, make sure it is a two-way sync. You change something here, it changes there. You change something here, it changes here. Not easy to make it work, but if that's what you want, make sure that it is a two-way sync. So what ends up happening, um, it's a classical billing and accounting gap at law firm. You have these two individuals as a lawyer and their accountant or a bookkeeper basically hanging in the cloud. They both love what they do, but they're not doing very well, as you can see. The separation of the accounting software from the other component is a classical gap where there's a one side doing billing and practice management and another person doing accounting completely on a different side. But these are highly interrelated activities. As we talked about the booking of the retainers, cost, reimbursements, collections, they impact both the system. So you want to make sure that your systems are robust and doesn't require these duplicated data entries every step of the way, as sooner or later it would cause a huge sources of error. Now, there are many, so we will follow up, some of these things, how technology can simplify. My colleague Erica will talk about that. But the last thing, few things I would like to talk about, few extra ideas is, if you do accept credit cards, make sure that it's a compliant merchant system. Trust accounting requirements and how the fees are deducted. Not every merchant handles it properly, and you don't want to find out that later on. You want to make sure that your setup is correct right in the beginning. When you do the monthly bank reconciliation, this is huge. Many law firms don't do reconciliation, which is absolutely unacceptable. But even when you do monthly reconciliation, make sure that each and every month is separate. Your January should be separate than February, February is March, March, April, April, May. Each month you should be able to go back and print a report anytime you would like. Just like you can go to your bank and get the bank statement printed, you should be able to go to your system and get your bank reconciliation printed. If you do use credit card, which we all do for expenses, make sure to itemize it. Make sure to enter each and every entry, not just American Express $17,000. That doesn't mean anything. Every item has to be broken down. If you do disbursements, print your checks rather than writing it by hand. It's a common, easy to say, but it's amazing how many law firms are still writing checks manually. So with that, I would like to pass it on to my colleague Erica, and we'll continue this legal accounting and how technology can play a role.
Great, thank you so much, Rick. So it seems that unless your industry can put a practice management and a legal accounting system together, these challenges are unlikely to go away. By including your practice management, billing, calendaring, documents, tasks, all of that together along with your law firm accounting, as we learned today, you end up with a complete law firm management solution. So with that, I'm going to give a lot of visual aid to the points that Rick pointed out, those 6 items that we were talking about in terms of the tips and tricks for the upcoming year, and giving you a visual as to how a system or technology can help you to better assist you in doing these things a little more automated and in an efficient manner. So with that, here I am in the CosmoLex system, and the first thing I want to show you is what we meant by a full practice management system. Like we mentioned how you might have billing and practice management on one side, accounting on the other, but in addition to the accounting, what's all that other stuff? What does that mean to you as a firm? And I'm just going to point out a couple things here. First of all, when I first log in, you're brought to a dashboard. This is the billing health of your firm. You need to be able to see right away, what are my overdue invoices? How many do I have? What are my balances, unpaid, unbilled, retainers off the top of your head? What have I billed versus what has been paid? All of this is useful, vital information to your firm, but as time goes on, you'll be able to see, you know, I'm halfway through the month. Are these numbers good, bad, prioritize, address the red flags, all of that. Also, if I go to the Matter tab, like Rick mentioned, having a legal specific solution is very beneficial. Everything centers around that matter. So from a practice management standpoint, you need to be able to pull up your matter, have all of your important balances, and be able to do your normal activities, your time entries, expense entries, retainer management, trust transactions. All of that is daily. You're going to be entering your time and expense on a daily basis. So you need to be able to do that not only efficiently, but have an easy way to enter it quick. Another part is in this activity section, I'm able to do a lot of bulk processes. So you're invoicing, emailing your invoices, printing them, of course, receiving payments, all of that. You need to have a very good method, also sending out collection notices. This ties in a lot with your billing, but also seeing overall your calendar, your task list, your documents, your notes. This is a full practice management system. Now, from there, I'm going to focus on what is important from this accounting aspect, which a lot of systems do not include. And with that, I'm going to go down those 6 points that Rick has mentioned. The first of which is your legal account customization. So this is regarding your chart of accounts. So if I were to go here into my chart of accounts list, like Rick had mentioned, this is the core of the double entry system. You have to have your chart of accounts in order to complete your business accounting. At the end of the day, in addition to being an attorney, you're a business owner. So it's a necessity, it has to happen. Why not make it easy on yourself? In this chart of accounts section, you have all of your standard chart of accounts, expenses, rent, income, but legal specific. You have advanced client costs, reimbursable client costs, retainer accounts, fee income accounts, all those items that you would have to manually enter into a general accounting software. Also, you have journal entries if your accountant needs to go back and make changes, all of that in a very easy to use manner. Now, in regards to your expenses, especially when you have to do that double entry, you're going to have to do, let's say, the out-of-pocket expense. Let's say you're paying a filing fee, $25 filing fee, and you need to pass that through to the client. Rick was mentioning leakage. If you forget to pass through that cost to the matter, that's lost income. You're never going to get that back because you're probably not going to realize that you forgot to pass that through. So here, for instance, if I wanted to pass through a cost, it's known as a hard cost. And what I could do is when I click on that button, I'm not only entering the business expense, okay, so this is, let's say, for instance, the $25 fee that is going to the courthouse for a filing fee, for example. I can print my check, do all that here, but notice at the bottom is automatically being posted as a matter expense. This will be an expense card on that matter, which will automatically get picked up in the next invoice. So that eliminates the risk of forgetting to pass it through. Also, you have that foolproof method. You know, do you want to worry about making the accounting entry? No. So it has to be made though. So in this account field, you're going to see that those accounts again are defaulted. If this is a reimbursable client cost account, it's going to default as such. You cannot allocate a matter cost to a rent account, travel, some other expense account. It's not allowed. If it's a matter cost, it has to be accounted for as a matter cost. So having something that does multiple steps at once, in this case, at least 3 steps are happening on one screen, but also in an accurate fashion. The next thing I want to show you is regarding retainers or your trust transactions. Anything you're doing for trust, for instance, if I were to do a retainer, again, that account is shown for you. So if I added this, not only would it add, let's say, $1,000 from a billing standpoint as a retainer, but also down here, the liability is recorded for you. This is not income. It's not earned yet, so it has to be recorded properly as a liability. And that's that foolproof aspect, and also 2 steps in one. Another item for trust is knowing these balances at all times. It is crucial to know what a matter has for trust funds. As you go on, you should be able to pull up a matter and say, $1,000 for this client. And you also should not be able to overdraft. That is especially important for legal community with trust accounting. If I were to cut a check on a particular matter, like for instance, if I cut a $1,000 check on this matter, I'm actually blocked from doing so. That's essential because you do many things at once, you may not be looking at the number, you don't want to accidentally overdraft on a ledger. Okay, so in regards to, that's more of the trust accounting. In regards to the client cost recovery, which is point number 4, I covered in terms of no leakage. When you do that hard cost, it passes directly through to the matter. Also, that foolproof accounting, having those defaulted accounts is essential. You may have a paralegal or a secretary who, of course, you don't expect to have any accounting knowledge, entering these expenses or entering these invoices, and you don't want them to worry about putting things in the right account. Having defaults in place will make sure that happens accurately for you. Now, entering the items is one step, but once you create an invoice and receive that payment, those allocations, where does that money go? It's not 100% income. It needs to be broken down. So if I were to look at a particular invoice, this is a paid invoice, and I'll show you the details. So this invoice was made up of many things. You have legal fees, costs, late fees, discounts, whatever the case may be. And when you go ahead and apply the payment, you will have the allocations take place. So let me just go ahead and apply that payment for you. Okay. So I actually have an unpaid one, so let me go ahead and show you how to apply that payment. So if I have this matter, and then I go ahead and apply it, could be from your trust retainer, new funds, whatever the case may be. I'm going to go ahead and apply that amount. And now this is a paid invoice. Now notice, when I applied that payment, I didn't tell the program where that money needs to go. I didn't say what's cost. I didn't say what's income. That's automatically allocated for you. So here I have my payment applied. All of these different allocations happen automatically. I didn't have to enter them individually myself. One other item is your payment of your, or income I should say, by practice area. If I wanted to separate that out, you notice here I actually have it separated out for the income for this particular matter. How would you do that? You know, that seems kind of complex. Well, all you need to do is set up an individual chart of account. You know, you can have sub-accounts of fee income for all the different areas of practice. And then when you add a new matter, you have the ability to assign what that default account will be. And you can have as many practice areas as possible. So going forward, all the income you receive will be allocated appropriately. So that just gives you a full view of all that can happen in an all-in-one solution in terms of the accounting interacting with the rest of your system. And the last thing I want to show you is this is everything that's available in the CosmoLex system. As we mentioned, having an all-in-one tool can be very beneficial to you. That includes your calendaring tasks, documents, but you're also your billing, business accounting, and trust accounting. These are highly interrelated, so we want to make sure that everything happens in the most efficient way possible.